The sun rose gently over the rolling hills, spilling golden light across the narrow road that wound toward Camp Horizon. It was the kind of morning that made you believe nothing bad could ever happen. The air was warm but fresh, filled with the smell of pine trees and freshly cut grass. Birds darted between branches, their chirps mixing with the distant hum of the summer wind. A bright yellow school bus moved along that road, its engine steady, its sides reflecting the morning glow. Inside the bus were 32 children, all between the ages of 10 and 15, their faces pressed to the windows. Some laughed loudly, others whispered about what they would do at camp this year: hiking, building fires, stargazing. For many, Camp Horizon was the highlight of the year, a place to forget about school, screens, and city noise. The driver, Mr. Colby, was an old man with steady hands and a kind smile. He had been driving children to this camp for more than 20 years. He knew every twist in the road, every leaning tree, every place where deer sometimes appeared. This morning felt no different. Or so he thought. At 8:17 a.m., the bus entered a stretch of road where the forest grew thicker, the branches arching overhead like green tunnels. Sunlight flickered through the leaves, painting the seats in patches of gold. The children were busy telling stories, sharing snacks, passing around comic books. Mr. Colby hummed an old tune. Something strange happened. The light in the forest seemed to change, not dim, not brighten. Shift. The air outside shimmered faintly, like heat rising from a desert road. Mr. Colby frowned, leaning forward to check the windshield. The shimmer grew stronger, a ripple spreading across the road ahead. It was almost invisible, yet it bent the trees and sky behind it like a reflection in moving water. One of the children, a quiet boy named Evan, stopped mid-sentence. "Mr. Colby, what's that?" he asked, pointing ahead. Before Mr. Colby could answer, the bus drove directly into the ripple. It was as if the world had been switched off. One moment, there was the sound of the engine, the rustle of leaves, the laughter of children. The next, silence, not quiet, not muffled, but complete, unnatural silence. Every sound vanished. The sunlight disappeared. Through the windows there was nothing: no trees, no sky, no road. Only a deep, endless gray. The bus hung there, unmoving, as if it were floating in thick fog. Mr. Colby's hands gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. "Stay in your seats," he said, but his voice trembled. And then light returned, but it wasn't sunlight. It was pale blue-white, and it came from massive shapes outside. Shapes that were not trees. Shapes that moved. The children pressed their faces to the glass, eyes wide. Through the fog, they saw tall, insect-like machines walking on four spindly legs, their heads glowing with bands of shifting color. The machines surrounded the bus in perfect silence, moving with terrifying precision. One lowered its head to the window. Its surface was smooth and black, like polished stone, but alive, shifting subtly, as though breathing. A sound filled the bus, deep and resonant, vibrating in the bones more than in the ears. It wasn't a voice, yet somehow everyone understood. The meaning, human juveniles detected, collection proceeding. Before panic could fully take hold, the machines extended thin, jointed arms tipped with glowing rings. The rings expanded, surrounding the bus. A flash of blue light, and the forest, the road, the earth were gone. The bus was no longer on solid ground. It hovered inside a vast chamber, its walls so far away they seemed lost in haze. The ceiling was a moving swirl of metallic panels and shifting lights, and far above, something massive rotated slowly like the belly of a great beast. The children screamed, clinging to their seats. Mr. Colby shouted at the machines, slamming his hands against the door, but there was no response. One boy, Daniel, began pounding on the glass. Another, Riley, pulled out her phone. No signal, no battery, nothing but a dead black screen. Every device had gone dark. The machines moved again, raising the bus with invisible force. It floated higher, toward a bright circular opening in the wall. As they passed through, the bus was pulled apart not with violence, but with precision. Metal panels slid away, bolts loosened themselves, glass dissolved into fine mist. The seats detached from the floor, each one surrounded by a shimmering field that held it suspended in the air. The children were trapped in those fields, unable to move, unable to speak. Only their eyes darted wildly, full of terror. From the shadows emerged figures. They were tall, their bodies wrapped in layers of dark, textured armor that glimmered faintly in the alien light. Their faces were hidden behind smooth masks with 3 glowing lenses. They moved like people who had done this many times before, efficient, calm, cold. One of them approached a suspended child and held up a small device. A blue beam swept over the child's body from head to toe. The alien tilted its head as if reading something invisible, then made a gesture to the others. The voice came again, this time from the figures themselves. All specimens within parameters. Transfer to holding Sector 12. Far away, on Earth, the disappearance was already unfolding into a crisis. At 9:06 a.m., when the bus failed to arrive at Camp Horizon, the camp director called the local police. By 10 o'clock, the search was underway. Officers followed the road, found tire tracks. And then nothing. The tracks ended in the middle of the road, as if the bus had simply vanished. Helicopters scanned the forest. Drones searched from above. No broken branches, no skid marks, no sign of a crash. By noon, the FBI was involved. Satellite imagery was pulled, but the feed from that section of road showed several minutes of corrupted data, a blank gap where the bus should have been. It was as if the moment had been erased. In the chaos, one person claimed to have seen something. A farmhand named Cal Weaver told deputies he'd been fixing a fence near the tree line when he saw the school bus drive by. But just before it reached the bend in the road, the air ahead of it bent, like looking at the bottom of a pool. The bus entered the shimmer and never came out. At first, they dismissed him, but then they checked the time. Cal's watch had stopped for exactly 3 minutes and 14 seconds at the moment he saw the shimmer. The detail was too strange to ignore. Back in the alien chamber, the children were moved into transparent cells, not cages but smooth cylinders of shimmering energy. They floated weightlessly inside, able to turn slowly but not touch the walls. The aliens moved between them, scanning, recording, adjusting the light inside each cell. The air was warm but sterile, smelling faintly of metal and something sweet, like overripe fruit. There was no sound but the low hum of the energy fields. Girl named Maya tried to speak, but her voice came out strange, slowed, distorted, as though time itself were resisting her. The boy in the cell next to her mouthed words she couldn't hear. It was then that the smallest child in the group, Liam, noticed something. High above, beyond the moving platforms, there was a massive window. Through it, he could see stars, more stars than he had ever imagined. They weren't on Earth anymore. They weren't even close. Deep in the ship's core, a meeting was taking place. 4 alien diplomats stood around a circular table, its surface alive with shifting holograms. The leader, Archivist Vara, wore a mantle of shimmering fibers that swayed as she spoke. The collection was successful, she said in the liquid tones of her language. These humans will serve as the foundation for controlled development. Raised without the instability of their origin world, they may yet become useful to the Union. Another diplomat, Ambassador Keir, leaned forward. His voice carried the weight of age and caution. You speak of them as if they were livestock. Have you forgotten what humans have done in less than 3 centuries of space contact? They adapt. They resist. Even their children are malleable, Vara interrupted. They will forget their home. In 2 cycles, they will speak our language. In 4, they will know nothing else. Keir said nothing, but his 3 eyes dimmed slightly. History had shown that underestimating humans was never wise. On Earth, the panic deepened. Parents crowded the gates of Camp Horizon, demanding answers. Reporters swarmed the sheriff's office. Social media exploded with theories: cult kidnapping, secret government project, even alien abduction. Most people laughed at the last idea, but in the Pentagon, behind locked steel doors, a small group of analysts studied the corrupted satellite footage in silence. They slowed it frame by frame. For less than a second before the feed went dead, they saw a geometric pattern of light forming in the air. It was not natural. It was not man-made. And it was moving. The children in the alien cells floated in uneasy silence. They had been given no food, no water, no explanation. Only the warm hum of the energy fields and the slow drift of the stars outside. Liam pressed his palm against the shimmering wall of his cell. It tingled slightly, like static electricity. He thought of his parents, of his little sister at home, of the way the kitchen smelled when pancakes were cooking. He refused to believe he would forget. Far above, the ship adjusted its course, vanishing into the dark between stars. And somewhere, deep inside, a quiet seed of resistance began to grow. The alien vessel, a vast and silent fortress drifting between stars, cut through the void without a ripple. It was shaped like a crescent blade, its dark surface absorbing starlight so completely that it seemed more shadow than matter. From a distance, it could be mistaken for a drifting asteroid. Up close, the truth was clear. Every surface was alive with faint movements, millions of tiny hexagonal plates adjusting like scales on a living creature. Inside, the air was warm and faintly metallic. Ceilings stretched high above, supported by curved beams that glowed softly from within. The corridors bent gently in long arcs, as though the ship itself disliked sharp angles. At the center of it all was the council chamber, a circular hall large enough to hold an entire Earth skyscraper. This was where the Tavari Union made decisions that shaped entire star systems. Archivist Vara stood at the head of a raised platform, her long mantle of fibers shifting like waves in an unseen tide. Her eyes large, glassy, and the color of molten silver reflected the patterns dancing on the central HOLO-table. Before her floated holographic images of the Earth children, suspended in their containment fields. Some drifted silently, eyes wide. Others struggled in frustration, fists passing uselessly through shimmering walls. Vara turned to address the others. The collection was efficient. All specimens had been catalogued. Genetic diversity is acceptable. Across from her stood Strategist Wren, his narrow frame wrapped in armor the color of rusted copper. His voice was sharp, clipped. The Union is at risk. Humanity's trajectory is unstable. In less than 4 of their centuries, they have gone from primitive combustion to near-light propulsion. They spread without discipline, without oversight. Their expansion will eventually collide with Union interests. A third figure, Ambassador Kier, remained silent for a moment, his 3 eyes fixed on the images of the children. Kier's body was broader than the others, his movements slower, deliberate. When he finally spoke, his voice was deep, carrying the weight of someone who had seen too many mistakes. "We have made this error before," Kier said. "With the Athari. With the Dralin. We intervened early, reshaped their young thought. It would control their future. And yet, they collapsed into war," Vara interrupted, her tone cool. "Yes, but humans are different." Kier's gaze sharpened. "Yes, they are more dangerous." Wren gave a faint hum, the Tavari equivalent of a scoff. "They are children, Kier. These specimens will be raised within the Union's core systems. Their memories of Earth will be erased, their languages replaced, their instincts redirected toward loyalty. In 2 cycles, they will not even remember that they were human." Kier looked at the smallest child in the hologram, Liam, his eyes bright and searching. Kier had read the briefings. Humans had an unusual neurological trait. Their adaptability was extreme, their problem-solving often unpredictable. This was the reason the Union feared them, and also why controlling them was nearly impossible. Erasure is not as permanent as you think, Keir murmured. They will remember in ways you cannot measure, in dreams, in instincts. In stories they do not even realize they are telling. Far away, on Earth, the investigation had reached a new stage. In a secure room deep beneath the Pentagon, Captain Mara Voss stood before a wall-sized screen, arms folded tightly. Her dark hair was pulled back, her uniform crisp, but her eyes were sharp with fatigue. She had been awake for 30 hours straight, chasing the only real lead in the case of the missing bus. On the screen, the corrupted satellite footage replayed in slow motion. For a fraction of a second before the data collapsed into static, a strange pattern appeared in the air above the forest road, a set of interlocking hexagons, glowing faintly, expanding outward. "That's not weather," said Dr. Yates, civilian physicist brought in to analyze the anomaly. "And it's not any human technology I've ever seen." Mara leaned forward. "Can you reconstruct the full image?" Yates shook his head. "Too much data loss. But the energy signature is unique. I've seen something similar in the records from the Kepler incident 20 years ago. Same kind of space-time distortion. Same kind of..." He hesitated. "Missing people." The room went silent. Everyone had heard of the Kepler incident, though officially it had never happened. A small research vessel had vanished while mapping the outer solar system. When it returned 3 months later, the crew was gone, the onboard systems wiped clean. Mara's jaw tightened. "So you're saying..." "I'm saying this wasn't a simple abduction," Yates replied. "This was extraction. Precise. Surgical. Someone wanted those children specifically." Back aboard the Tavari vessel, the children's containment fields drifted gently down a wide corridor. The corridor ended in a chamber lined with smooth alcoves, each one glowing faintly. The fields slid into place inside the alcoves, and the glow shifted to a soft golden hue. A Tavari technician moved between them, adjusting controls on a wrist-mounted device. Inside each alcove, faint threads of light extended from the walls, wrapping around the children's heads like halos. The threads pulsed slowly. Maya felt a warmth spreading through her mind. It wasn't unpleasant, more like the calm before sleep. But she fought it, forcing herself to keep thinking about home, about her parents, about her dog. She tried to picture her bedroom in perfect detail, down to the poster peeling slightly at the corner. The warmth pressed harder. The poster blurred in her mind. She clenched her fists and bit her lip. The alien technician glanced at his readings and made a small sound of irritation. Humans were supposed to be easier to quiet. In the council chamber, Vara received the technician's report. "Initial memory suppression is incomplete. 40% resistance rate." Wren frowned. "They are children. How is there resistance?" Kyra's voice was quiet but steady. "Because you have taken something from them that is stronger than fear, home." Vara ignored him. "Intensify the process. Increase exposure time." Keir turned away, but his eyes lingered on the hologram of Liam again. The boy's gaze seemed to cut straight through the display, as though he could somehow see Keir watching him. On Earth, Mara followed the energy readings from the satellite anomaly. They weren't random, they formed a trail. Not a trail across the ground, but a path through something deeper. It was as if the air itself had been folded and unfolded along a precise route. Her team's experimental long-range sensors, built for deep space navigation, were brought online. They detected faint echoes of the same distortion, far beyond the moon's orbit. Something had moved there recently. Something big. Mara made her decision. "We prepped the as Resolute. We're going after them." As the alien ship cruised through deep space, Keir walked the observation deck. Here, the vast window curved around the chamber, showing an unbroken sweep of the galaxy. Stars burned cold and distant. A thin ribbon of glowing gas stretched across. The view like a frozen river. KYRR remembered the first time he had seen humans decades ago, during the Union's cautious contact phase. They had been crude then, their ships slow and fragile. But their eyes had been sharp, curious, unafraid. He could see those same eyes in the children now. And he knew the Union was making a mistake. In the memory suppression chamber, Liam tried something new. Instead of fighting the warm pressure in his mind, he pretended to give in. He let the images of Earth fade, but at the same time he began humming softly. A song his mother used to sing when he was scared. The other children heard it. Soon, a few more joined in, humming quietly, their voices weaving together in the still air. The technicians noticed the increased brain activity but misread it as compliance. In truth, the song was anchoring them, holding their memories together. Vara received another report. Specimens show increased cohesion. Group bonding is higher than projected. Ren smiled faintly. Good. Unity will make them easier to train. Kier said nothing, but his mind was already turning. If Unity could preserve them now, perhaps it could carry them through what was coming. Back on Earth, Mara's ship roared to life. The AS Resolute was sleek, fast, and armed with technology barely out of prototype stage. It wasn't built for long voyages, but it had one advantage: an experimental jump drive capable of short bursts through folded space. As the engines warmed, Mara stood on the bridge, looking at the stars beyond the hangar doors. She thought of the 32 faces in the missing persons file, and of the parents who had begged her for answers. They had given her something no military order ever could: a personal mission. She would find those children, no matter where they had been taken, no matter who had taken them. And far beyond, in the cold dark, the Tavari vessel adjusted course again, heading deeper into Union space. The stars shifted, the void stretched, and the ship vanished into the folds between worlds. But somewhere inside, 32 small hearts still beat to the memory of Earth, and in one quiet mind, a plan was already beginning to form. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge of the ES Resolute, staring at the vast screen that showed the empty blackness of space. The stars shone cold and distant, like tiny diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth, but somewhere out there beyond the reach of any Earth sensor were the children, who had vanished. Mara's fingers tightened on the console as the ship slid through the final preparations for its jump. Her crew worked silently, each focused on their tasks, but the tension was thick in the air. No one spoke much. No one dared say the word alien, because if the Tavari were watching, they would know. And that could mean war. The AA's Resolute was a sleek craft built in secret over the past 5 years by a coalition of Earth's best engineers and scientists. It was fast, powerful, and equipped with the latest jump drive technology. Experimental, yes, but the only hope to chase the bus into the unknown. Mara had only one goal: to find the children and bring them home. The jump started with a sudden lurch. The stars stretched into long lines, and the blackness folded in on itself. When the ship emerged, the sky was different. Not Earth sky. Ahead of them floated a massive structure larger than any space station Earth had ever built. It was a fortress, dark and gleaming, shaped like a crescent moon with spikes jutting from its edges. This was Tavari space, the heart of the alien union. Shields up, Mara ordered quietly. The crew obeyed. Sensors showed dozens of small vessels moving around the station like angry hornets. They were fast and silent, and they scanned the Resolute with bright beams. Mara's jaw tightened. We're not welcome here. They pushed forward, entering the outer docking bay. The bay was enormous, big enough to hold hundreds of ships and glowing with soft blue light. Mara's heart pounded. This was the place. Inside the station, long corridors stretched endlessly. The walls were smooth metal, but covered with strange symbols that pulsed with light. The air smelled cold and clean, with a faint metallic taste. Mara and her team moved carefully, weapons ready but lowered. They didn't want to start a fight. They wanted the children. They reached a large chamber, filled with strange machines and glowing fields. And there, floating in transparent bubbles, were the children. The bubbles held them gently, keeping them still but unharmed. Some children looked scared. Some looked confused. Some were silent. Mara's eyes searched for familiar faces. She spotted Liam, the smallest boy with bright eyes that seemed to look straight through the walls. Mara spoke softly. "We're here to help." The children turned toward her voice. Some smiled faintly. Some whispered quietly among themselves. One girl, Maya, tried to move toward Mara, but the field held her back. Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The station security systems had detected the intruders. Mara shouted orders. "We need to get those fields down, now." Her team scrambled to the control panels. Buttons were pressed, commands entered, but the fields held strong. In the chaos, a tall alien appeared. He wore dark armor and a mask with 3 glowing lenses. His presence was cold and commanding. "This is a restricted area," the alien said. In perfect English, "You have no permission to be here." Mara raised her weapon, ready. "We're taking these children home. No one will stop us." The alien did not flinch. He raised a hand and a wave of energy pulsed out. Mara felt her body stiffen, as if frozen by cold fire. Her crew struggled but held their ground. In that moment, Liam did something unexpected. He closed his eyes and concentrated hard. A faint glow surrounded him. The field holding him flickered, then broke. Liam floated free and darted toward Mara. Mara caught him, pulling him close. "Good job, Liam," she whispered. The other children saw this and began to focus. One by one, their fields weakened. The children broke free, some tumbling, some floating, but all moving toward the rescue team. The alien commander snarled and shouted orders. More guards poured into the chamber, weapons raised. Mara's team fired warning shots. "No one hurts the children," she yelled. The fight was tense but brief. Mara's crew was well trained, and the alien guards hesitated, perhaps unsure how far to push. Amid the chaos, Liam and Maya led the other children through the corridors. Mara followed, protecting them with every step. The station shook suddenly. A massive impact hit the outer hull. Mara looked out a window. A Tavari warship blocked their escape route, weapons charging. "We're trapped," Mara said grimly. The alien commander appeared again. "This is your final warning. Surrender the children and prepare for capture." Mara stepped forward, voice steady. "Never. They are coming home with us." The warship powered its weapons. But before firing, a voice came through the stations. Speakers calm, commanding. "Stand down. This is Ambassador Kier." Kyr's image appeared on the screen, his 3 eyes glowing softly. He looked older and wiser than before, but his gaze was sharp. "You humans are unpredictable," Kier said, "but you are also fascinating." He paused. "These children are important, not just for your planet, but for the Union." Mara frowned. "What do you mean?" Kier smiled faintly. "They are the future of conflict or cooperation. We will watch closely." With that, the warship powered down its weapons and withdrew. The station's alarms stopped. The red lights faded to blue. Mara exhaled deeply. "We have a small window. Let's get the children out of here." The rescue team moved quickly. They gathered the children and rushed toward the docking bay. The station's defenses were still alert, but not aggressive. Outside, the ES Resolute waited. Engines hummed softly, ready for departure. Just as they reached the ship, more guards appeared. Mara raised her weapon. prepared to fight again. But Liam stepped forward, holding out his hand. "Wait," he said, voice steady despite everything. The guards hesitated. Liam's glowing eyes met the commander's. Something passed between them, a silent understanding. The guards lowered their weapons. Mara looked at Liam in surprise. "What did you do?" Liam smiled faintly. "I talked to them." Back on the Resolute, the engines powered up. The ship lifted off the station. Escaping into the darkness of space, Mara stood at the bridge, watching the alien fortress shrink behind them. The children gathered in the medical bay, some asleep, some staring out the windows in wonder. Liam sat quietly, eyes still glowing faintly. Mara thought about Kyra's words, about the children being the future. She knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, the Tavari were watching, waiting. And the real battle for Earth's children was just beginning. The Ayaz Resolute drifted quietly through space, leaving the massive Tavari station behind. Inside the ship, the rescued children were gathered in a special chamber. They were tired but awake, their eyes full of wonder and fear. Mara watched them closely. These were not just missing kids anymore. They were symbols of Earth's hope and defiance. The children had been silent for hours. Each one tried to understand where they were, what had happened. The strange energy fields, the alien machines, the terrifying masks. Maya broke the silence first. "They tried to erase us," she said softly. "They wanted us to forget Earth," Liam nodded. "But we didn't forget." Mara smiled at them. "You're stronger than they thought." But even as she spoke, the ship's AI buzzed with alerts. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Harris. "The Tavari are not done with us. Sensors show a small fleet approaching." Mara's face hardened. "They want their prisoners back." The children listened as the adults prepared for battle. But inside, something more important was happening. Liam gathered the others. "We have to fight their control," he said. "They want to make us forget who we are." Maya looked worried. "How? We have memories," Liam said, "and stories." He explained how they used to tell stories at camp about Earth, about animals, about stars. Even when the aliens tried to stop their thoughts, they found ways to share memories in secret. The children began to sing softly, a song Liam taught them. It was a simple melody about the sun, the trees, and the home they loved. The song spread like wildfire. Even those who had been quiet before joined in. Their voices filled the chamber, echoing through the halls of the Resolute. The aliens monitoring them were puzzled. Memory suppression was supposed to erase these connections. But instead, the children grew closer. Back on the bridge, Mara received a report. "Captain, the Tavari fleet is moving in fast. We have only minutes before they attack." Mara gritted her teeth. "We won't let them take these children back." She ordered all weapons online. The Resolute shuddered as the crew prepared for battle. Meanwhile, in a hidden room deep inside the ship, Ambassador Kier watched the children's progress. He frowned, his three eyes narrowing. "They are stronger than we predicted," he said. "Tavara and Ren." Vara waved a hand. "They are children. Their resistance is temporary." Kier shook his head. "You underestimate the power of their unity." Back in the children's chamber, Liam had an idea. "We can use the ship's systems against the Tavari," he said. "If we can access the communication grid, we can send a message." Mara raised an eyebrow. "You can use alien technology?" Liam smiled faintly. "Not yet, but I can learn." Mara nodded. "We don't have much time." Liam and Maya went to work, using what they remembered from the aliens' machines. They pressed buttons, tapped screens, and slowly gained control over some of the ship's systems. Suddenly, a warning blared. "Warning! Unauthorized access detected." The ship shook as the Tavari fleet fired their first volley. Mara shouted orders. "Hold the line, protect the children." The ship's shields flared under the heavy attack. Explosions rocked the hull. Liam and Maya worked faster. They hacked into the communication systems and prepared to send a broadcast. "This is Liam of Earth," he said into the microphone. "You took our children. You thought we would forget, but we remember. We are not yours to control." The message sent ripples across the Tavari networks. Ships stopped firing for a moment. Confusion spread among the alien ranks. On the bridge, Kier's eyes widened. "They are sending a challenge," Vara growled softly. "This changes nothing." But Kier was not so sure. He knew this message would inspire humans everywhere. They would not stay quiet. Back on the Resolute, the children sang again. Their voices rose in strength. They were not just fighting for their memories. They were fighting for their future. Mara looked at them with pride. "They will never control us," she said softly. The battle raged on, but the true fight was just beginning. The fight for the soul of humanity. The Ayaz Resolute drifted in the shadow of the massive Tavari fleet. Ships surrounded them on all sides, sleek, deadly, and silent as hunters closing in on their prey. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the viewscreen. The children were gathered in the medical bay, resting but alert. They had faced fear and uncertainty, but now a new challenge loomed. The Tavari had one last chance to take back their captives. "Shields at maximum," Mara ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." Her crew worked quickly, fingers flying over consoles as the Resolute twisted and turned, dodging beams of energy that scorched the void around them. The children listened to the thrum of the engines and the distant blasts of the Tavari weapons. Liam held Maya's hand tightly. "We will get home," he whispered. Maya nodded, but fear lingered in her eyes. "This is bigger than us," she said. Liam squeezed her hand. "We have to be strong." Back on the bridge, Mara studied the enemy ship's patterns. They moved like a wall, tight and coordinated. "Commander Harris," she said, "what options do we have?" Harris shook his head. "They've covered every exit. If we try to jump now, they will catch us." Mara's jaw clenched. "We need a distraction." In the children's chamber, Liam whispered ideas. "We can't fight there." "Ships," he said. "But maybe we can confuse them." Maya looked at him. "How?" Liam smiled faintly. "We have something they don't, our memories." He explained how the children could work together to disrupt the Tavari systems. Their minds, linked by their shared stories and songs, could create unexpected signals in the ship's networks. Mara listened carefully. "Do it," she said. The children closed their eyes and began to hum softly. The melody spread, reaching into the Resolute systems, blending with the ship's hum. Sensors flickered. Communication scrambled. Enemy targeting grew confused. On the bridge, alarms blared. "Captain, we've lost targeting on several enemy ships," Mara smiled. "Keep pushing." Suddenly, the Resolute shot forward, weaving between the Tavari vessels. The children's song acted like a shield, blocking sensors and jamming communications. Mara ordered the jump drive activated. Energy built around the ship. The Tavari ships fired everything they had. Beams of light tore through space, but the Resolute was already fading, a brilliant flash, and the ship jumped into folded space. For a moment, there was silence. Then the stars returned, bright and familiar. The Resolute was back in Earth's solar system. The children cheered softly. Mara smiled, relief flooding her. They were safe, but the victory was bittersweet. Mara looked at the children. "They're still out there," she said. "The Tavari Union won't forget us," Liam nodded. "But neither will we." Back in the Tavari council chamber, Kier sat in silence. His eyes glowed softly as he watched the stars. "Humans," he said quietly, "unpredictable and unstoppable." On Earth, the rescue was met with joy and confusion. Parents hugged their children tightly. The world watched in wonder and fear. Mara knew the fight was far from over. But for now, the children were home. The sun rose over Earth again, casting warm light on the small town where the children had returned. Camp Horizon's gates stood open, empty for weeks, now filled with the laughter and tears of those who had come home. The families gathered, faces shining with joy and disbelief. Children ran through the fields, chasing each other, as if to prove they were real, that nothing could keep them away. Captain Mara Voss watched from a distance, her arms crossed, eyes scanning the crowd. She felt a strange mix of relief and worry. The mission had succeeded, but the war was far from over. The children were safe for now. But the memories of their time aboard the Tavari ship haunted them. Strange dreams, flashes of alien corridors, and the constant feeling that they were being watched. Maya sat with Liam under a tall oak tree. "We are different now," she said softly. "But we are still us," Liam nodded. "Our memories make us strong." The world watched their story unfold on every screen. News anchors called it a miracle. Scientists asked questions no one could answer. Governments debated what to do next. In Washington, D.C., Mara met with high-ranking officials. She warned them the Tavari Union would not give up so easily. "They have vast power and reach," she said. "But humanity is stronger than they know." A secret council was formed, a group of leaders, scientists, and military minds dedicated to preparing Earth for what was coming. They called it Project Guardian. Meanwhile, the children adjusted to life back home. They went to school, played with friends, and tried to forget the terrifying days in space, but they knew deep inside that something had changed. Liam and Maya often met in the evenings, sharing stories and planning. They had learned something important. The Tavari's attempt to erase their memories had failed because of one simple thing: human connection. One night, under the stars, Liam said, "We have to be ready," Maya agreed. "If they come back, we won't be afraid." Far beyond Earth, in the dark reaches of the galaxy, Ambassador Kier stood before the Tavari Council. He spoke quietly but with power. "Humans will not be controlled," he said. "They are too unpredictable." The council listened but remained silent. The future was uncertain. Back on Earth, Mara looked at the children she had helped save. She knew the fight was just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, hope shone bright. The children of Earth had survived, and they would never be anyone's prisoners again.